More and more evidence is linking Donald Trump and his family to the January 6th insurrection, and legal expert Joyce Vance explained on MSNBC how the former president and his allies may try to use public fatigue to evade accountability. Take a look.
Joyce, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Joe just actually summed up the situation perfectly on a national basis here. People are tired of hearing about all of this. That's understandable. From your perspective as a former U.S. attorney, looking at what's happened in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office's investigation of Donald Trump, from the January 6th assemblage of evidence against Donald Trump, and from other investigations that are ongoing, as well as all of the anecdotal evidence we have, would you indict him?
The question of whether to indict has to be an evidence-specific case, and there are a lot of moving pieces. I have sympathy for what DOJ prosecutors are looking at. There are issues as varied as a First Amendment defense. For instance, whether or not the speech that was used on the Ellipse is protected by the Constitution, and whether that could prevent a prosecution. That's just one of the many difficult issues prosecutors have to parse. The court of opinion, as you point out, is something entirely different, and there's a little bit of fatigue right now in the court of public opinion. But that's not how prosecutions work. If DOJ decides that the law and the evidence merits prosecution, then a jury will be assembled in a courtroom in the United States District Court in the District of Columbia. That jury will hear evidence, not this entire enormous mess that's really what I think has created fatigue in the public, but they'll hear very specific evidence on each of the elements of crimes that are charged, and they'll make a decision about whether anyone who is charged with those crimes is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Something that we've seen over and over in these cases, I remember the prosecution of Paul Manafort, is that citizens serving as jurors can set aside their preconceptions and their biases and hear that evidence and reach a ruling. So that's a very different sort of enterprise from the court of public opinion.
The House Select Committee investigating the events of January 6th was convened more than a year ago. Between the work of that committee, the FBI, various criminal and civil investigations, media interviews, books, and other reporting, a great deal of information is now known about what happened that day and how. Basic facts suggest that Donald Trump, his inner circle, senior members of the Republican Party, and various other right-wing operatives worked together as part of a plan to nullify the results of the 2020 presidential election and keep Trump in power, in defiance of the popular will of the American people and in violation of the law. We now know from Department of Justice filings and other evidence that the attack was wholly predictable, if not premeditated, and that the goal of Trump's followers, which included various right-wing paramilitary groups, was to stop the certification of the election in Joe Biden's favor. In total, the Capitol assault was an integral part of the plot to keep Trump in power. At this point in the House Select Committee's investigation into the events, the focus is clear. To paraphrase a famous line from the Watergate investigations of the 1970s, what did Donald Trump know and when did he know it? Once that question is finally answered, a larger and more important one will need to be resolved if American democracy is to survive neo-fascism, the Trump regime, and the lawlessness of the current Republican Party. That question is whether there is any room for justice in America under the conditions we now face. Will Donald Trump and the other members of the coup cabal be criminally indicted and then face prosecution for their evident crimes against American democracy and the rule of law? We're still waiting. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to visit us at rawstory.com. And if you'd like to see more of the Raw Report, please like and subscribe and join others who like their news raw too.